There are some huge changes at every point of that buying cycle, driven by the fact that selling itself is changing. And, of course, the purchasing revolution has changed things too. So there have been very significant changes, enormous changes. Let's go through the changes step by step. Suppose we start with that apparently dead stage called changes over time, that no one gives much attention to. It's waiting for something to happen. Well, at one time, that was like a glacier moving very, very slowly. Today, those changes are happening faster than ever before inside the customer. And the winners are getting in there before a need develops. What they're doing is they're challenging the customer with ideas, with possibilities, more and more looking to create value and to keep a presence there in the customer. That used to be a very, very quiet part of the selling cycle. It's no longer that way now because it's a very active phase for the buyer, because buyers are living in an age where you can't afford to wait. The average company's got twice as many competitors as it had just 5 years ago. It's a fast-moving world, and customers are looking all the time. And salespeople have to be aware that even before the need, buyers are much more interested in change and in anticipating things that may be going to happen. Let's turn to the recognition of needs stage of the cycle. There was a time where it was a fairly easy thing to do, to just uncover customer problems and offer solutions, and that was the recognition of needs phase. Because what was happening was we lived in an era where there weren't as many choices for the customer, and the problems that the customer had were much clearer than they are today. 20 years ago, when I was first doing the research that led to the buying cycle, I was doing a lot of research with Xerox at the time. When a Xerox salesperson went to a customer and asked, "What are the problems with your present copier?" the customer would say, "The quality stinks, it's always breaking down, it jams, I can't keep the thing at a consistent level of quality." All of those things were easy problems. The need was very near the surface. It didn't take much to bring it out. Today, that same customer says, in answer to the question, "What are the problems with your present copier?" "I don't even know who makes my present copier." Now, there are problems. There are important things, needs, but they're of a different kind. They're deeper, they're more systemic, they're more about value than ever they used to be. Let's turn to the evaluation of options stage. How is that changing? The kind of change that I see there is the customer has already done a lot of the comparison before ever a salesperson comes to talk to them. In fact, some studies are showing that well over half the decision is being made by the customer before they talk to salespeople at all. A customer can today access something like 20 times as much data about you and your competitors than they could 5 years ago. The customer's flooded with that data. They don't need a salesperson to show how we are different from them, how our widget is better than their widget. What the customer's trying to do is evaluate something more complex, to evaluate something with a longer time horizon, to evaluate, for example, a relationship, the kind of relationship they want with a vendor, to evaluate things like the capacity of that person to create significant customer value. All of these things mean that there's a different emphasis there in the customer today. In the resolution of concerns stage, a couple of important things have happened. One is we live in an era partly driven by the difficult economic times, partly driven because we're in uncertainty anyway. An era where customers are becoming quite risk averse. They don't want to make a bad decision. And fewer people want to stick their necks out unless they feel really reassured that this decision is right. Remember, the resolution of concerns is about coming to a comfort with the risks and problems that would come from going with you, the supplier. Now, the buyer needs that reassurance and needs it in more depth than before. And that is one of the driving changes, the risk reduction function of salespeople during this resolution of concerns phase. It's deeper, it's more complex, and it's more sophisticated than it used to be. Negotiation is something that enters into the resolution of concerns stage. What's happening there is purchasing has become very sophisticated at negotiating in the kind of way where they're able to claw back very much more than ever they did before from their vendors, and the negotiating stage is an almost inevitable one. When I was doing the research, maybe 50 to 60% of complex long cycle sales had an element of negotiation just before the decision. Today, it's well over 90%. If you go back 15 years, and if you could see inside the customer's mind, what you would see there are concerns like the quality of what they're buying, the reliability of what they're buying. The price, of course, has always been a major issue. But those concerns have changed. Quality is a given. Reliability is a given. Everyone expects that you can perform and your competitors can perform. You become more of a commodity in that sense. So what the buyer's looking for there is not differences between products. They're looking very much more at differences between how they're being sold. Today, how you sell has become much more important than what you sell. The successful salesperson today is someone who creates customer value. They do that by their ideas, by their creativity, by their capacity to show customers things that the customer hadn't even realized were there.